Okay, I think we're good to start. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Penn Engineering Online. This is our webinar series, and we're so glad to see so many of you joining us today. So this is actually day 5. It is our 5th webinar this week in our See Yourself, Be Yourself webinar series, and all week long we have been it's been so great to have so many students joining us at our webinars. We've had different groups of students each day, and it really has been amazing to hear their stories and their journeys and why they chose Penn Engineering Online, how they got here, what it's like to be a student, and all that good stuff. So you're really in for a great treat. Today, we have 4 students on our panel. They are what we call our returning learners. So they are students that prior to Penn Engineering Online hadn't taken a class or a course in quite some time. So they're going to tell you their stories later on in the webinar today. But just to give you an idea of the other groups that we had this week, on Monday, we had our Women in Tech. On Tuesday, we had our international students. Wednesday evening, we had our students with families. And yesterday, we had our students of color. So all of these webinars you'll be able to view later on because we do record them, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about later. Also with us today, we have Adrienne Yoder. Adrienne is our Student Success Manager. She's our Student Success Manager for the MCIT online program. And she's going to be talking to you later about the many resources our students have to be successful, how to connect with the Penn community. And for those of you that are interested in our MSEDS online program, we also have a student success manager and advisors for that program as well. But Adrienne was available to be with us today, and you're definitely going to enjoy what she has to say. And I totally forgot to introduce myself to you. I'm Jackie Panto. I'm the admissions recruitment manager, so I work on the admissions side with the rest of the admissions team, and I work with potential students like yourself to help them learn about the programs and to help them through the application process. So I just want to go over some webinar like housekeeping items with you before we get started. So first of all, as I mentioned, we do record all of our webinars. So this one will be recorded. So you don't need to frantically take notes. If you miss something, it's okay. You can watch the webinar at a later date. Also, all of the webinars this week have been recorded. So if you want to hear from, if another webinar sounds interesting and you want to hear from another group of students, please go to our YouTube channel. You'll find that webinar, as all of our past webinars are there. It is absolutely a great resource when you're going through the admissions process and the application. Lots of great information to learn. Also, if you have questions today throughout the webinar, what we want you to do is to use the Q&A function in Zoom. So type out your questions, and we have 2 members from our admissions team behind the scenes, and they will be working on answering those questions. So they'll be typing the answers back in that Q&A chat. And then later on, during the webinar, our 4 students are going to be answering questions and telling you a lot more about themselves and their journeys, like we mentioned. So before we jump into our questions for our students today, I just want to go over briefly our 2 online programs that we have in our portfolio. So the first program is our Online Masters of Computer and Information Technology, which is otherwise known as our MCIT online program. And the MCIT online program is a wonderful, one-of-a-kind program because it is totally tailored to individuals that do not have any computer science background. So it is a highly diverse program in terms of backgrounds on where students are coming from and what undergraduate degrees they have. So it's really a community that's made up of lots of different experiences, because everybody comes basically from different types of backgrounds. So it really is a one-of-a-kind program. You do not need any computer science for this program. It was built on the strength of our on-campus program. Our on-campus program has been around for 21 years, so it's tried and true. So we developed this online program based on the excellence of our on-campus program. So the knowledge conferred is the same as a computer science degree. It's basically a computer science degree, just taught online versus on campus. So you'll graduate with the same diploma as any Penn student. And there really is no mention of on campus or online on any of our diplomas or transcripts. Our second program is our online Masters of Science in Engineering and Data Science program. We call that program our MSEDS online program. This is our brand new online program. The first cohort is spring 23. So right now they're going through the program for the first time. And this is a program that is designed for computer science background, for folks that do have computer science backgrounds. So if you see, to be qualified for this program, applicants should meet one of three criteria. So the first criteria is what I said, you have an undergraduate degree in computer science, you're looking to take a deep dive into data science, then this is definitely the program for you. The second criteria that you could have is perhaps you have a minor in computer science, or you took at least 4 computer science courses at some point in your educational career. We've listed some samples of what those courses could be. And then the third criteria is some people might have a highly quantitative underdegree major or field, such as math, statistics, physics, things like that. Plus, they have a couple of years of work experience as a software developer or something very similar. Then yes, that would make you qualified to apply for the program. So one of those 3 criteria, if you fall into one of those 3, then you should be good, in order to qualify to apply for this program. So those are our 2 programs. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn the presentation over to Adrienne so she can let you know all about the many resources here at Penn.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. And hello, everyone. It's good to have you all join us today. My name is Adrienne Yoder. I'm the Student Success Manager for MCIT Online. And as Jackie mentioned, there's a whole other advising team for MSEDS as well. And part of our job as advisors is to first and foremost support our students, make sure that they are getting through their classes successfully and achieving their goals. The other thing that we do is we really listen to students to figure out what it is in terms of the support that they need. And in doing so, we provide resources to them, or we create new resources for them. And we also, go to the larger Penn University to see what resources are available. And a lot of these resources are available for online students as well as on-campus students. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them today. Starting off are our campus cultural centers. We have quite a few of these, and these are places where you can meet people with similar backgrounds or similar experiences to yourself, where you can connect with them or connect with the administration there and, get support or just meet a community of like-minded people. A couple of the cultural centers, for instance, are the Women's Center, the LGBT Center, the Black Student Center. These are all places that online students can go and just connect with the community there. And they're great partners for the online community. They've definitely helped our students and supported our students during their journey. Another great support are the Penn libraries. We actually have a few libraries, and as an online student, there are quite a few resources that you can access from the Penn libraries. You have access to the full range of academic journals and publications that the Penn Library offers to its students. You also have access to services like streaming movies, or listening to audio. There's a lot of things that you'll have available to you. And if you happen to be in the area, once you get the on-campus ID card, if you come visit, you'll actually be able to access the libraries in person and check out books if you need. Next, we have our alumni services. These are also all available for online students. As a student, you have access to job platforms, to different career counselors, and it's the same thing as when you're an alum. So you'll have access to the job platform called Handshake, where employers specifically want to connect with Penn students. And so recruiters will reach out to you, you'll reach out to recruiters. It's a great place to just put yourself out there. And also as an alum, there are a couple of Penn Engineering alum societies you can get involved with. And there's also alumni events that you will be invited to as an alum. such as our commencement event and homecoming fall fest event, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Next, transitioning a little bit into career services. As an online student, there are a lot of things that we have tailored specifically to our online population. The first thing that I can think of that many of our students participate in is the online career fair. This is where you can connect with, I think I would say like 100 or more employers, and you will be able to meet with them one-on-one. You'll be able to submit your resume ahead of time. You can listen to information sessions. Outside of the career fair, there are career counselors you can speak with, specifically Emily Perry. She's our Penn Engineering Online Associate Director for Professional Development. And she works specifically with the online students. She knows what you guys are going through. She knows the industry in and out, and she is a great resource for our students. So with that, she does resume review, hosts webinars, host information sessions, recruitment sessions. In addition to that, gets people connected on the platforms that they need to connect with employers. Next, as an online student, you also have the eligibility to receive federal financial aid and scholarships. The rule for graduate students across the university is that you have to take at least 2 classes to qualify for financial aid. So that's something, to think about as you're applying to the program. And scholarship opportunities are available for online students, and that is something that you'll come across and learn a little bit more about when you're in the application process. And lastly, but certainly not least, something that we find to be a huge support for our students is our robust online community. Our students really love to connect with each other, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I'm going to share a little bit now about what those opportunities are. All right, so firstly, MCIT Online has a specific student organization. It's called the MCIT Online Student Association, MOSA for short. And what I'll say about this is specific to MCIT Online. MSEDS, the data science program, it is their first semester, and I know Tracy Stoidel over there, she is the advisor for the MSEDS students. She's already starting to think about forming a student club for the DS program. So it's still in early works, but that's definitely something she's thinking about. But back to MCIT Online, this is a great student group. If you want to get involved right away, you can. The student group gives back by hosting networking events, social events, different ways that you can connect. They also will bring in professionals from the industry to meet with students. They also solicit feedback from current students to report to the program about how the students are doing. And they host things like the peer mentoring program and other opportunities for you to connect with students. So if you want to get involved right away and you want to meet other students, this is a great way to do so. They meet regularly and they set up their goals every year for what they want to accomplish. Next, we have so many events for Penn Engineering Online, and this list here just names a few of them. We have meetups, meet and greets, both online and in person. Once you join the program, we host meet and greets where you can meet new students. But also students have met up with each other outside of the classroom and in person. We have a couple of different ways that you can do that, but I also know that when faculty are traveling or when staff are traveling, they'll also make a point to meet up with students. We see this happen, in the breaks between semesters. We'll see that the New York City group met up, that the San Francisco group met up. I know I've met up with students in Salt Lake City. So this happens all the time. It happens ad hoc or it happens formally. So we do want you guys to connect with each other. We know that the online experience can be isolating, and so we try to make sure that there are as many ways to connect with each other as possible. Next, we host networking events. This is between students and with professionals in the industry or with faculty. We also do commencement and homecoming These are huge events where we invite current students and alumni back to the campus. It's a great way to meet faculty and staff and fellow students that you've only ever interacted with online, and we highly encourage students to come if they can. We also host regular webinars, and what that looks like as an admitted student is our webinars are based around academics and updates with the program. So that can be if we are launching a new elective, we will host a webinar about the elective. If there's a new faculty member, that's a great webinar opportunity. We also host like town halls for the online community with the program director if they have questions for the program director. So these come up, every, I would say, like 1 to 2 months, we host a webinar on these things. And so that's a great way to connect with not just fellow students, but with actual faculty in the program. And lastly, we have quite a few platforms where you can get connected to fellow students. The Slack workspace, some of you may be familiar with Slack. It's sort of like Microsoft Teams or any other, instant messaging platform that you use. But we have one for both of our programs. And as students have described to me, it is the lifeblood of the program. It's where you can connect with students in real time and talk to them about how they're doing, how their classes are going, or anything else you'd like to talk about. Within the Slack workspace, there are specific channels. So if you want to connect with somebody specifically about, MCIT 5910, the intro class, there's a channel for that. Or if you want to just connect like on a social basis, if you want to meet people who are in your area, you can connect with, we have lots of regional groups that have channels in there. Or if you want to just connect with students, if you need support or you're thinking about career support, there are channels for that as well. So if you get admitted into the program, that is the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is get into Slack. It's so important. LinkedIn, also, we have a professional LinkedIn group where you can meet current students as well as alumni. We also, as an alum, you will have access to a platform called My Penn and another platform called People Grove, where you can connect with alumni and current students. It's kind of like a LinkedIn specifically for Penn alum and Penn Engineering alumni. So you'll get access to that as soon as you become a student. And Ed Discussion, these are our message boards that we use for our classes. They are incredibly important. This is where you can see, tips and tricks that the instructor or the TAs are offering. And you can connect with other students if you have questions about your coursework. It's a great place to post these questions because, TAs, course managers, the instructor are looking over these to make sure all the information is accurate. And with that, actually, we'll talk a little bit more about course support now. Great. So in our classes, we have a whole team of people behind you, making sure that you are getting through your classes successfully and you have all of the support you need. Our team does all of the following. They maintain the Canvas platform. If you are familiar with any learning management system like Blackboard or Moodle, Canvas is similar to those. Our team is behind the scenes making sure items are unlocked that you can access, that your assignments are posted in there correctly. If you are having trouble submitting an assignment, they work with you to make sure that happens. So we have a whole team behind that that's making sure and always improving your Canvas experience. We also, in our courses, make sure that you guys have access to office hours round the clock. We know that students are coming in from all over the world and that different time zones can't access, the same office hours that we experience here, in Philadelphia, those times. So we try to host them around the clock so that you can attend in person. And if you can't, we also record them so you can watch them later. Our team also troubleshoots any tech issues that you might be having. So if, as I said, you're having trouble submitting an assignment, or you're having trouble within the platform that you use to code, whatever it might be, You can always reach out to our course managers and TAs. They will work through the issue with you as soon as they can. And whenever you reach out to them, they'll get back to you within a 24-hour period. And usually it's much faster than that. Oh, and that actually leads me to my next point, student outreach. If we see that you're struggling in the course, or you might have missed the last assignment, we'll reach out to you and check on you, see how you're doing, and if you need any help with that. On top of that, we encourage you to reach out if you need any sort of support, even if it's just technical, or if you need help, thinking about how to manage your time. We're here to support you, so you can reach out at any time, and we'll contact you as well if we see any trouble. And with that, we'll actually talk a little bit about ways that you can get involved in supporting your fellow students. So as a Penn Engineering Online student, you can participate in any of these opportunities. So teaching and learning practicum, the academic coaches, teaching assistants. I'll go over the teaching and learning practicum and TAs first. So these positions, both TLPs and TAs, these are like teaching assistant positions where you're supporting the instructor, the course manager, the students in, grading homeworks, leading office hours, responding to messages on the ed discussion board. If you want to take that a step further, you can participate in the teaching and learning practicum, which has a little bit of a classroom component to it. So with the teaching and learning practicum, you learn a little bit more about the pedagogy behind teaching and behind grading and what you should be thinking about as you're doing that. There are a few lectures that you watch on top of that. And this is actually a great opportunity for international students, just because with the rules surrounding TAs, international students can't participate quite the same way as domestic students who want to be TAs. So international students can become TLPs and still, do the same duties as TAs, which is great. And then on top of that, if you want to go even a step further and help our students with their coursework, you can also become an academic coach. And what's great about this position is this position supports incoming students to the program. They are sort of between a tutor and a mentor. So they take the time, to make sure that you're doing well in your classes and answer any questions that you have about your classes. But they also check in with you to see how you're doing, if you're needing any extra support, managing your time, or if you're feeling a little frustrated, trying to figure out, how to use your platforms, or if you just need somebody to talk to, a fellow student about the program, if you're just needing some extra support, the academic coaches are a great way to do that. They have been in the program where you are. They're a little bit further along. Usually most of them are on their way to graduating. So they know everything that you're going with because they've been going through it, because they've been there as well. So that is a great opportunity to give back after your first semester. All right, so I think I covered everything, in terms of support and ways to get involved as a student. So with that, Jackie, I will pass it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Adrienne. That was wonderful. So much great information about our resources and getting involved in the community. Thank you. So I just want to spend brief moment on talking about application details before we turn it over to our student panelists. So I know many of you either started your application or perhaps you want to start it this weekend, but I just want to go over a few things with regard to that. So first off, obviously the application is online, but there are some things that you are going to have to provide with the application. You'll need an updated resume, so that's important. You'll need a personal statement. With regard to the personal statement, please make sure you answer all of the questions that we ask on the application under personal statement. You don't want to leave any out. It's a great way for us to get to know you. And you want to make sure within that statement, you're answering all the questions that we have on the application under that section. In terms of college transcripts, you do need to provide transcripts for every school that you have attended, not just the school you graduated from. So if you moved around a little bit and attended a few colleges, please be sure you include all college transcripts. And we need unofficial copies, so PDF copies of the transcripts you have. We want to upload those to the application. In terms of letters of recommendation, We only require 2 letters of recommendation, but we strongly urge that you seek 3. If you have 3 good recommenders that you can give us the contact information for that are willing to write a letter, then please seek 3. And the reason why, this element's out of your control. It's up to the recommenders to get that element in on time. And letters of recommendation are due by deadline, not a few days after, they're due by deadline. So if you solicit for 3 and one's late, you still have that safety net with having that extra one. So highly recommend that. The GRE is optional. There is no need to submit a GRE if you don't want to, if you feel there's not a need. Some of our applicants will take the GRE and submit their scores when they're trying to show proof of perhaps quantitative ability. Showing quantitative ability, particularly with the MCIT online program, is extremely important. So some applicants will use the GRE in order to do that. But again, it's totally up to you. It is not a required element. The TOEFL is going to be required for those applicants that are not U.S. citizens or not U.S. permanent residents. English isn't their primary language. TOEFL waiver can be waived if you attended a university that was taught in English. So if the medium instruction was English, then you can use the TOEFL waiver, and that's all within the actual application. In terms of if you want to know where you stand, if your recommenders submitted their letters, you can go right to your application portal. There is a checklist. Look at that checklist to see if the recommender sent in their letter of recommendation, or if you're submitting a GRE score, you can see right there if we received the scores or not. So your application portal and your checklist is where you go to check the status of any of those missing elements. In terms of dates and deadlines, we do have a deadline coming up. Our early application deadline is March 1st. It seems like, oh, it's so far away because we have the whole month of February. February is a shorter month, and it's going to be upon us before we know it. So if you're looking to get your applications in by early deadline, definitely want to get that up and running and finalized and submitted. We do start looking things over as soon as it's submitted. So it's good to get those applications submitted as soon as you can. Also keep in mind, if you're interested in the Dean's Master's Scholarship, that is also due by March 1st. The only time you can apply to the Dean's Master's Scholarship is during the early application round. So for early application deadline, you want to make sure that scholarship, and that's all right within the regular application. So make sure that's all in by March 1st as well. We return all decisions on the same day. So April 17th, everyone will find out the result of their application. If you're looking to apply to regular admission, that deadline is May 1st. And again, decisions are returned on June 15th. So that kind of gives you an overview of the application process. If you have more detailed questions, I'm going to tell you how to contact us at the end, but you can certainly email us or sign up for office hours if you have specific questions about the application process. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Adrienne. Let's meet our students and let's hear what questions we have. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jackie. All right, so now for the main event, we are so excited that we could have a group of current students join us, students who, took some time off from school, from their undergrad or their master's, whatever it was, took some time off and came back, a few years later. So we're excited to hear a little bit about their experience and, advice that they have for any student going into the program. So thank you all for being here. Today we have with us Oiza Baye, Courtney Walsh, Brian Chin, and Raman Bhatia. So thank you all for being here. All right, so let's get started. I have a question to get us started off. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your undergrad degree and what you are doing now. So Oiza, let's get started with you.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Oiza, and my background before Penn, I have a bachelor's in economics and a master's in international relations, and I had work experience in the nonprofit sector, but I switched to programming a couple of years ago. So I currently work as a software engineer, mainly front end at a startup in Canada.
Nice. Thank you so much. And did you change to that position while you were in MCIT Online?
No, before I got into MCIT. So I went to a boot camp, a programming boot camp, and that's how I started in front-end engineering. And I got into MCIT to like further, my knowledge of computer science.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Oisa. Courtney, why don't you share?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Courtney Walsh, and I do not have any programming experience. I have been a management consultant for 10 years, and I recently started a company. It's a software company focused on increasing access to consulting tools. And I'm also an adjunct professor in an MBA program, and I teach corporate strategy and management consulting. And educationally, I have a bachelor's in psychology from Colgate University and a master's in public policy from Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government.
Wow, you sound busy. It sounds like you've got a lot going on. Great, thanks, Courtney. Brian, why don't we head over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. I started this program in spring 2021, and I'm located in Los Angeles, California. And I graduated from undergrad in 2007, so it's been a few years, and then graduated with an MBA in 2010. And I've primarily worked in the space industry for the last 15 years, focused more on the business side, contracts and acquisitions. And about 5 years ago, I helped start up an aerospace consulting firm. And so our company primarily works with the Space Force, and we help develop and launch satellites and other space systems.
Wow, excellent. Thanks so much for sharing, Brian. And Raman, last but not least, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. And I'm happy to share my journey with you today. So I'm proud to have been part of the MCIT program cohort of 2019. Before enrolling in the program, I earned my undergrad degree in hospitality management and worked in the field for a few years. In 2008, I immigrated to US and earned my degree, MBA degree in 2010. And I worked for 9 years as a business analyst and a program manager. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer, and I feel empowered with the knowledge and experience I gained through MCIT program.
Oh, excellent. That's great to hear, Raman. And you just graduated this past fall.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to hear from all of you. You all have such diverse backgrounds. And I think that's really a testament to the MCIT Online program. As long as you've got a strong quantitative background and you're ready to try something new, we are happy to have all different kinds of students in the program. So thank you all for being here. And I'm so glad to hear about your experiences in the program. All right, so moving on. Can you each tell us a little bit about your journey to Penn Engineering Online and why you wanted to come back to school? So actually, let's go in reverse order. How about Raman? Why don't you get us started on that?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So my journey into Penn Engineering was kind of fueled by my desire to make a positive impact as a woman of color in the field of software engineering. I was aware of the low ratio of the women in the field, and no matter how small, I wanted to be part of the solution to kind of bridge that gap. I always had a passion for technology and the possibilities it holds for making the world a better place. I also realized that I wanted to pursue a path that will allow me to use my skills and expertise for driving a meaningful change. So I was kind of determined to take my skill and knowledge to the next level. And when I came across MCIT program, I was thrilled to be accepted into the program, since it is the program that is designed for people like me who do not have any prior experience or education in the field. And this program curriculum is designed to equip students with the necessary knowledge to thrive in the industry. So I guess that was my biggest motivation to be back to the university.
Great. Thanks so much, Raman. That's why I feel like so many people who join MCIT Online want to make an impact or a career change, make a big change in their life. And it sounds like that was a little bit of your experience. So thank you so much for sharing. Brian, let's hear a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two main reasons why I wanted to come back to school, and it's probably pretty similar to Raman. But one, I've always been interested in computers, technology, and one day I just kind of started looking around and seeing how technology was just moving at such a rapid pace, and we see it in the news every day. Things like ChatGPT and all of these new modules coming out. And so I started looking around and thinking, just with the introduction of AI and ML and how far everything is advancing, it seemed like almost every single industry would be influenced by these applications sometime in the near future. And so I just felt it was important to be ahead of the curve and start learning some of those topics. And so when the pandemic hit in 2020, I felt like I'd have a lot of free time in my nights and weekends. And so I started looking around for a master's program with a few different criteria. And so, computer science, flexible, online, something with a great education, and similarly, something tailored for a person that doesn't have a pure technical background. And so really, when I found MCIT Online, it checked all the boxes and was just the perfect fit for me.
Oh, that's so great to hear, Brian. And something that you mentioned reminded me that, as you mentioned, the tech industry is constantly changing and moving. And within the curriculum, we try to keep, in both MSEDS and the MCIT curriculum, we try to stay as updated as possible in bringing in new electives. Even as an alum, students in MCIT Online are able to come back and take some classes for a certificate. Even if you want to freshen up your skills, you are able to do that. So it's a great opportunity just to keep up, because the tech industry is always changing. Absolutely. So thank you, Brian. All right, Courtney, let's pass it over to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I started a startup in 2021, and it's a digital platform focused on increasing access to management consulting tools. And so almost like a TurboTax for the management consulting industry. And I had no technical expertise. I took statistics in graduate school, but no formal coding expertise. And I quickly realized that in order to build an MVP and really have just a low working product, I really needed to work with software developers. And so I have been working with software developers, and it's been very eye-opening as a founder, and similar to what Brian and Raman said. As a woman in tech, as someone breaking into a new industry, it's really important to have those tools in your back pocket so that you can walk the walk and talk the talk. And it's already hard enough starting a software company as an individual, just me as a woman, not having a technical background. And so I realized that having a computer science toolbox was really going to be empowering for me on this journey. And so not only for this startup, but if I have other startup ideas, so that I can just get from zero to MVP much more quickly in a much more nimble manner, and be able to converse with my software developers and really kind of act as a quasi CTO as I'm getting my company off the ground. And so that really was the impetus for me to apply for this program, and I use the know-how for my courses every day with my startup, which is really, really wonderful to have that real-time applicability.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. I'm so glad to hear you're using it even now as you get started. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oysa, last but not least, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So like I mentioned, I went to a boot camp in Canada, and I went, so this was like the end of 2018 to 2019. And I was able to get an internship, front-end internship in Toronto, and then eventually get a job as a remote US startup. So I was able to break into the industry, but I found that even though my skills were pretty, like they were clearly growing in front end, there was a lot of information a lot of knowledge that I was missing. And I knew like at one point, you know, I would actually like interview the senior and staff developers at the place I was working. Some of the people who I knew were really respected and seen as, you know, rock stars and how they handled code. And I would ask them, you know, how did they learn? How did they get to, you know, where they are? And to it, like every single person, they either studied computer science or they dropped out of a computer science program, or they used to read computer science textbooks for fun. So like there was just like a clear parallel that you had to have computer science knowledge to get to really advance in the field and to even get to positions of leadership in the technical area, not even management. Like if you want to be a staff engineer, you really need to know all these things. So that was basically the reason why I started looking at opportunities to learn computer science. And I knew that, you know, because I was working full-time, like if I was going to put in the time to do this, I had to have some other benefit, like a degree beyond just, you know, taking Coursera courses. And I think like I looked at a couple of different programs, and Penn was pretty much the only program I applied to because it met all my criteria in that, you know, it was very, very rigorous, but it was for people who did not have a bachelor's in computer science. It was online and it was not too expensive. It's still pricey for a Canadian, but compared to some of the other online degrees out there, except Georgia Tech, which is a lot cheaper, but I felt like it would be too difficult for someone who did not have a computer science background. So that's what led me to this program.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Oysa. And it sounds like you have a great support around you at work of people who know what this is like, you know, learning and growing in computer science. Absolutely. All right, so we'll move on to our next question. And this is for Brian and Raman. So can you guys tell us a little bit about what you did to prepare yourself to come back to the classroom? So Brian, can you get us started?
Yeah, sure. So I'll focus my answer more kind of on the academic side of what I did and how I prepared to come back to the classroom. So I did a few different things to prepare. So first of all, during the admissions process, I actually met with an admissions advisor over Zoom, which for me was a great opportunity to get insight into my specific situation, to find ways to strengthen my application, but also get a little bit of a better understanding of what to expect in the program. Then, as Jackie talked about, the GRE, although it is optional, for me, it had been about 15 years or so since I had taken the GMAT. And so I decided to take the GRE so that, one, I could demonstrate my quantitative ability to the admissions board, but also to brush up on mathematical concepts. So things like probability, statistics that I hadn't taken in a really long time. And it actually ended up being really helpful for me in certain classes, more of the math-based classes like the discrete math class. I also took the computational thinking for problem solving class, which is an open course or a MOOC through Coursera that Penn hosts. And for me, it was, again, a plus on the application, but it was a great way to start thinking and framing things in a different way. And I think since then, Penn has added the Intro to Python course on Coursera, which would be a great way to get a head start into basic level Python and kind of diving into concepts that you'll take in your first class. And I think the final thing that I did was just preparing mentally to come into the program with the right kind of positive mindset. And I know in some of my past academic experiences, there have been times where I felt like, hey, I'm going through these courses because I have to, try to make it through to the end. But I came into MCIT a bit different. I came into it really just excited to learn and ready to embrace the challenge. And I think that mindset has really helped me throughout my journey in the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And I think you touched on something that's really important, which is that, you know, these things that you do to prep yourself for the application, the GRE, the MOOCs, they come in, it's not just for the application, they come in handy. They're so critical for the rest of the program if you need that background. So absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Brian. All right, and Raman, yeah, tell us a little bit about what you did to prepare.
So in addition to what already Brian mentioned, other than taking a GRE, I did mostly what he already went over. But I also updated my skills going over certain courses in Coursera, especially brushing up on the Python, not brushing up, but learning Python because I didn't have any skill set. I did network with alumni and the professionals, which were already in the field, getting their perspective on the program or how they feel about it. And above all, I think mentally preparing myself for the academic time commitment. In addition to that, I had to budget for this degree with my spouse as I was not eligible for financial aid. And also be ready to spend less time with family and probably missing out on important events or the weekend activities. So just come with that open mind, but with a positive attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Raman. And that's something we've been hearing a lot this week from fellow students is thinking about budgeting your time ahead of time, especially if you have outside commitments, like, you know, if you have young kids or if you are a caretaker, whatever it might be. So it's definitely something you, as you're applying, should start thinking about right now, because that is going to be a big change once you get into the program. Great. So thank you both for sharing. So we have a question next for Oysa and Raman. So the question is, are things different now while you're in the program now? Does it feel like school or what you're doing now is different from what you did years ago? And can you tell us a little bit about what's different and how you sort of manage those differences?
Sure.
Yeah, Oysa, go ahead.
So my master's degree was in international relations, and that was over 10 years ago, and my bachelor's was in economics. I would say the first thing that there are two things I'll focus on that are really different. One is things being online and async. That's definitely something that I didn't expect, but there's a lot of benefits to that because you don't have to be in class at the same time, you know, every day or with everyone else, so you can fit it around your schedule. But the downside is like there's not really beyond the first class, the 591, where everyone has to take their first semester, there's not really a cohort sense, like where you're all going through the same classes every semester. So you have to be really proactive to get support and to feel this camaraderie, I can't remember how to pronounce it, with other people. One thing that helps is that in our Slack, there are course-specific Slack channels. So once you're enrolled in a course, you probably want to join that Slack channel, and then you can talk to people who are in the course at the same time. The other thing that I would mention, which I would say is the toughest difference, is that computer science itself is a really tough major. And I guess I'd always known, but I didn't really realize how difficult it is. And you would think, you know, because I had software engineering experience, like it would be a breeze, but that's not the case. And I think that has been a shift for me to understand how, you know, in my undergrad major, economics was tough too, but I found like the lectures here, they don't really prepare you comprehensively for the homework. Whereas my previous degrees, I felt like when I was in class, I was getting all I needed to handle assignments and exams. Here, there's more expectation that you're really independent and that you apply the baseline knowledge that you get. And the advantage is that, you know, you grow really quickly and you get very confident because you feel, well, if I can solve this in Java, then I could take a job in Python. But the downside is that there can be times when you feel like less confident in your skills. And there's definitely like moments when that has happened for me. And I think just being upfront in Slack especially helps, because usually when someone says, this homework sucks, like, or I got a really low score, then other people are like, yeah, me too. Like, oh, that was terrible. Like, how can we improve this? And also just getting to know other people. We've had meetups in Toronto for MCIT students, and sometimes you can Slack with other people just one-on-one and be like, hey, how are you doing? That really helps a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Oisa. I have heard from many students, when they feel like they just like we're banging their head against the wall for one assignment. It is so important to talk to other students and see how they're doing, what's helped them, just to get that support. So absolutely, yeah. Thanks for sharing. All right, and Raman, tell us a little bit about, the differences that you experienced.
I guess I have changed my career path. That has been the biggest difference. After doing my MBA, I have been in the business analyst roles and the program manager roles. But now I am working as a software engineer, where I'm responsible for my success. We know, and we all know, that the tech job these days are seeing some challenges, but I strongly believe that we will emerge stronger than ever. The biggest hurdle, or I would say the biggest challenge for me, was not external, but internal, where there was a need to confront, accept my weaknesses, combat the thought of failure, and overcome the guilt of not spending enough time with my family. So at that time, having a strong support system of your family and friends really help, because they can remind you of the purpose why you even started this program at the first place. So for me, I guess, though having those support system was a critical factor for a successful journey.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for sharing, Raman. That is so true. You just need that support, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And something you both touched on was, that feeling like, is this right? Am I doing this right? Like, am I feeling imposter syndrome? I will say that as an advisor, every student I talk to feels that way at one time or another. And I can assure you, as a student, we admit students that we know have the aptitude. You're not in this program because we're not sure. We know you have the aptitude to be in it. And so you are not alone. We're here to support you. It is tough, but we'll help you get through it. You've got a whole team of people behind you. All right, so I see we might be running a little short on time. Jackie, do we have time for one or two more questions?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, so I have another question for Courtney and Brian. So can you tell me a little bit about the resources from Penn Engineering Online that you use to help you in your journey? Courtney, why don't we get started with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to kick it off. So I think I've used every single resource available to me. Just to give you a sense, in 591, which is the intro to coding, to Python and Java class, I took that in the spring of last year. And I think I went to office hours probably every single day, became best friends with a couple of the TAs. And I saw a couple of questions in the Q&A around working full-time. And I do work full-time. And I would go to office hours, all hours of the day, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So they're very, very good, the TAs, around scheduling office hours during the workday, mornings, evenings, because people are all across the globe. So I would go to the professor office hours, which are hosted every week. I would go to the TA office hours. I would also, we also have recitations in classes. And so those are offered a couple of days a week. And those, after you listen to the asynchronous material, the TAs will lead these sessions to help break down the material, go over examples. And those are really helpful for the homeworks. And so, and the office hours, of course, are instrumental for the homeworks as well, because similar to what others have said, you really have to apply the material beyond the lecture material, and it is very difficult. And so it does take time, but it's totally doable with a full-time job. I also have a 5-month-old, so I use the leave of absence resource that's available to students. And so my son was due on the same day that classes started last semester, and so I ended up having to take a leave of absence for obvious reasons. So that's a resource that's available if you have things that are planned or unplanned that come up. UPenn is very generous in giving you leaves of absences for different terms. I've also spoken with the advising team multiple times about course planning and my leave of absence, and so they're always there for you, and they offer office hours as well multiple times a week. I also was given a student mentor when I was in 591, and I just was really struggling and didn't know if I were going to get through the term and whether coding was really for me. And so I'll stop there, but I've used all of the resources, and there's an abundance of them, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. I'm so glad to hear the resources have been so helpful for you. Cool. All right. And Brian, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the resources?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep it short in the interest of time, but I think there is a lot of overlap with the resources that Courtney mentioned. Just want to say those one-on-one TA office hours, I've probably also gone to way too many, way more than I care to share, but just absolutely fantastic resource to get private, just one-on-one help with homework or courses or whatever you might be struggling with. Apart from that, I participated in the Spark competition. So it was a competition that's done annually for group side projects. And it was a really cool way to not only engage with other students, but learn how to code and work in this collaborative environment. Also learn some cool new programming skills, but also for those who are trying to build up a portfolio for maybe a future job, that's a good resource there. We talked about the Slack quite a bit, but the thing that I love is the location-based channel. So MCIT LA has a really active channel, and we try to meet up with people all over the Southern California area, maybe once every month or two. So we have tons of different events that we do and just meetups. And so it's pretty great not to feel isolated or like you're behind a computer screen for the entirety of the program. And finally, my favorite is probably Fall Fest. We had it in October, and it was just such a great opportunity to go on campus, to meet other students, professors, faculty, staff, join in on community building activities, get tours of the campus. We had a tailgate, attended the football game. So just a really cool way to feel connected and part of the Penn community.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could be there, Brian. It was so awesome. Even as a staff member, I had so much fun being there with you guys. So I'm glad you had a great time at Fall Fest. All right, and we do have one more question. This is my favorite question, so I don't feel like I can ignore it, but I do want to hear from each of you a little bit, or just tell me if you could give one piece of advice to a student coming in to Penn Engineering Online, what would you tell them? And I guess, Brian, why don't you get started?
Okay, one piece of advice. Only one. Okay.
Most important one.
I would say, if there's only one, I would say don't feel discouraged. Because I know at the beginning of the program, things can be challenging, and almost everybody talks about how challenging it is getting started in those first few classes. And I would say, give yourself at least a semester to get adjusted to the course load, especially for MCIT, because it's for people that have non-CS or non-technical backgrounds. And so a lot of those concepts in the first few classes are brand new concepts, and they require a different way of thinking. And there are all these changes going on in our brains. So I would say just give it time, stay the course, and embrace that you're doing something challenging, and to take pride in those accomplishments of doing something challenging.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Oisa, why don't we go with you next?
Sure, I just want to second what Brian said. That was great. I think the other piece of advice I would give would be to figure out what schedule works for you and what cadence works for you in terms of study. I know there was a question about time. I found that every class so far is at least 12 hours a week, typically more. For my current class, I'm taking 594, which is data structures. It's about 14 to 15 hours for me, but that's because I just learn slowly. but you need to know yourself really well and kind of figure out when is the best time for you to study. Some people are morning people, I'm not. So I tried the, first thing in the morning thing, that doesn't work for me. So I do it after work. And also because I have a programming job, I can't just program too much during the day, during after work. So I need to like really limit how much programming I do every day. So I could do an hour and a half after work every day. I can't do 3 hours of study every day after work because my brain would just fry. So yeah, just know yourself and spend time thinking about what works for you. It might take you a semester to figure that out, but that's okay, like Brian said.
Mhm. Great, thank you, Oysa. Raman, why don't we go with you next?
Sure. So I guess the one biggest piece of advice I would give it to the potential students is that don't let the online format make you feel that it would be easy. It'll provide you the flexibility, but the structure, expectation, time commitments, and grading is no different than the on-campus program. But we have an amazing professor and teaching staff who wants you to be successful. So in the process, you might have self-doubt and anxiety, but take those as an investment for a bigger reward. And just don't let fear hold you back. And if you keep the big picture in mind and believe in yourself, I truly believe you would be able to graduate and be successful.
Great, thank you so much, Raman. And Courtney, what is your final piece of advice?
I know everyone said everything I was going to say, but I thought of something else. I would just say have fun with it, because sometimes it's easy to lose the forest through the trees, and it's easy to get discouraged. It's hard, but remind yourself of the why you're there, and really enjoy it. Enjoy meeting the professors, the TAs, the other students, and learning these new skills. I'm in my mid-30s, and the ability to realize that my brain is not fully formed and the neuroplasticity is still moving is really rewarding. And so I would just leave you with that.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you all so much. This has been so informative. You've shared so much great information. So I hope that you at home, found this really useful as you're thinking about what it would be like to be a student. I know I've learned a lot from you guys too, so thank you for that. And yeah, we're so glad you were here with us today. Jackie, any closing remarks?
Awesome. Yeah, this was great. So we are going to wrap this up. Just want everybody to know out there, if you have questions after this, please reach out. You can email us. Their email address is there. You can sign up for private office hours. Please go to our events page, and that's where our office hours are. You can find more events on that events page on our website. Or if you have a question, use our FAQ database. And if not, we are always out there to help you. So please email us or sign up for office hours. You guys were so fabulous. This was wonderful. What great advice. So thank you all so much. Thank you all out there for being with us, and everybody have a wonderful Friday.